Hi everyone, I'm Jiang from the Vue.js team. Today my talk title is Vue's Road to Vite, and I'm going to talk about the new Vue.js developing experience centered around Vite. Let me quickly introduce myself first. I'm a member of both the Vue and Vite core teams as a full-time open source developer. My main focus is on the toolings for Vue.js, so I maintain and contribute to several projects related to Vue.js project scaffolding and bundling, most notably Vue CLI, Vite, and Create Vue. My GitHub username is @soderT, and my Twitter handle is my full name @Haoqun Jiang. Earlier this year, we put the good old Vue CLI project into maintenance mode, meaning that we will no longer actively add new features to it, but only ship bug fixes. Now the official recommendation is to use the following command to create new Vue projects, npm create Vue @3. It is much more lightweight than Vue CLI, requires no additional global installation of tools except for npm and node, and it is always up to date. Recently, we also managed to incorporate it into the official Vite templates. So now when you run the npm create Vite latest command, you can also see the customize with create Vue option in the drop-down alongside the two minimalistic templates provided by Create Vite. It will create the exact same project as the Create Vue command, and they are both based on Vite. So in today's talk, I will try to answer these questions for you. First, why do we, the Vue team, decide to switch from Vue CLI and Webpack to Create Vue and Vite? Secondly, what are the different approaches the Vue tooling ecosystem is taking in the era of Vite? Third, what more interesting new features can we expect in the near future in the Vite Vue ecosystem? The first and most notable change is to turn our ecosystem away from Webpack. I have to say that it takes some courage and struggle for us to make this decision, because by doing so, we are essentially dropping lots of our previous efforts devoted to the Webpack ecosystem. But the Vite ecosystem is now getting more and more mature, and we believe it's worth it. The benefits are very obvious and impressive. We all know that Vite's dev server is way faster than Webpack's. To be precise and completely fair, well, it is actually possible to get nearly the same performance as Vite with Webpack, as long as you have configured the native compilation tools such as SWC or ESBuild, and you have a very good cache configurations, and it is a warm startup. However, it is extremely hard to get all these configurations right, and it requires tons of dependencies. Meanwhile, in Vite, the good performance is out of the box. You don't have to configure anything additionally. Besides, when it comes to the hot module replacement feature, the time complexity of the Vite implementation is constant, while Webpack is proportional to the module count. So when the project grows, the hot module replacement in Webpack gets slower. And this is by design, meaning that Webpack can never catch up with Vite. Another benefit of Vite is its simplicity. The configuration format of Vite is easy and intuitive, so that we don't need another layer of abstraction like Webpack chain to let the users easily get their desired configurations in Vite. And even for ecosystem package authors, it is easier to extend from the Vite call than from the Webpack call. For example, it is a universally acknowledged design PT in Webpack that it shouldn't have both the loader and plugin API, because this brings two problems. First, users might not know which API to use. Sometimes they might even have chosen the wrong one at first. Like the ESLint loader was later turned into ESLint Webpack plugin because the authors found that the plugin APIs are more suitable for the use case of ESLint. And sometimes we may need both the loader and the plugin APIs to achieve one single functionality. That's the case for Vue Loader, even though it has the word loader in its name. Users still have to use the Vue Loader plugin export from the same package together with the Vue Loader to make Webpack support Vue single file components. These are no longer problems in Vite and the rollup because they only have one way to extend from the core. That's the plugin system. Lastly, as of Vite 3, the third major iteration of Vite, we believe that Vite is mature enough and more than ready for serious use cases. Because with all its simplicity, Vite still has a power enough core. It is ready for use with many built-in integrations. It uses Rollup, the battle-tested bundler for production bundling. And of course, the super performant dev server is one of its most iconic feature. And it has static asset handling enabled by default. No extra user configuration is required. So this makes Vite more like Webpack, more like Vue CLI than Webpack. That's another reason for us to switch to Vite directly instead of creating another layer called Vite CLI or something else. And for more sophisticated use cases, such as browser compatibility issues and unit testing solutions, Vite already has a rich ecosystem. It has first-party plugins for Babel transpilation, and it has third-party tools like Vite for unit testings. So Vite is now in feature parity with Vue CLI mostly, and that makes us more confident in the switching. It is a mixed blessing that Vite is a completely new generation of web tools. So we can take the opportunity to take a different approach on some of the issues that wasn't possible previously in Vue CLI and Webpack. So we dropped support for many anti-patterns. For example, ESM and CGS code are no longer allowed to be mixed in user codes in user projects. You cannot use module.export and import statements in the same module. Of course, CGS only code are allowed in dependencies, but your project code will be cleaner with this limitation. As of the Vue plugin of Vite, we now force explicit .vue extensions when you import from a Vue single file component, because that makes the integration with other tools easier. ESLint and TypeScript can recognize the Vue single file components earlier, and that would be less problematic in the future. Vite does not only take a different approach on technical issues, it also improves the project management on many levels. It now has a predictable release cadence. That is, it would ship at least one major version every year to be in line with Node.js versions. So every year, Vite would drop support for end-of-life Node.js versions. This year, Vite 3 dropped support for Node.js 12, and next year, 2023, Vite would drop support for Node.js 14. This more frequent and predictable release cadence also makes the migration path of each major version smoother. It would have fewer breaking changes in each major releases, so you will no longer see the long list of breaking changes in the migration guide. And this ease of migration is also guaranteed by the Vite ecosystem CLI repository. With every release, Vite is tested with all the major players in the ecosystem. And if you are using Vite with a wrapper or a meta framework or something else, they will be guaranteed to be usable before the release. So the migration path is smoother. In the transition from Vue CLI to Vite, we've also taken this opportunity to decouple some complex features from the main tool. In Vue CLI, we used to have the concept called generators, which are special plugins used to create or modify files in a user project. These generators are often tightly coupled with each other. For example, the TypeScript plugin is used to modify JavaScript files created from the CLI service package, but has special handling for files created from the router plugin. So that makes these generators hard to maintain in the long run. Now that we are creating new tools, so we decided to create a dedicated scaffolding tools for each of these use cases. We have create Vue, which have all the basic necessities for a Vue project. And for those who are using their own templates or using older Webpack-based projects, we have the Vue / create ESLint config package that are used for only creating the ESLint configurations for you. And if you want to have your own project templates, I think it is a good choice to create GitHub repositories as templates and use the Git to download these templates for you. Another type of plugin in Vue CLI is service plugins. These are plugins used to extend the Webpack config from the core CLI service and CLI plugins. Now that Vite is easier to configure and extend from, we no longer need another layer of abstractions. So no more service plugin. You can just use plain Vite plugins in a project. Okay, now let's take a closer look at each of the core Vue CLI plugins and see what we've got in the Vite ecosystem. First, let's start with the ESLint plugin. The ESLint plugin was used to help users configure ESLint in their projects and lint the files during project compilation. For the configuration part, we've created a new tool, and you can call the command npm create @vue/eslint config to help you configure ESLint in any Vue projects. That includes Vite, that's not only in Vite projects, but also in Webpack projects or in Vue CLI projects. As for the linting during project compilation part, we now find that it is not the ideal way to do linting because it hurts the compilation performance. And most IDEs and editors have ESLint plugin. So we now recommend you to just use your IDE or editor feature to use ESLint instead of use a bundler plugin. And as for the TypeScript plugin, transpilation of .ts files are supported by default in Vite with help of ESBuild. If you want type checking, we also recommend you to use the integrations of your editors or IDEs. And if you want to do the type checking in command line, then you can install the Vue TSC package separately. Of course, if you do want to see the linting and type checking results in your browser page in real time, there is a third-party plugin called Vite Plugin Checker that runs these tools in a worker thread, which is non-blocking, and the results will be shown in the browser error overlay, just like what we've got in the Vue CLI in the past. As for the unit testing solutions, actually, we are not satisfied with any of our previous solutions. Jest is a great tool, but the biggest problem of it is that it doesn't share configurations with the bundler. It has its own ecosystem of transformers and resolvers, and users have to maintain a standalone configurations files just for Jest itself, and the testing environment might not end up not the same as the project execution context. So that's not ideal. Mocha is another great tool, but it is tedious to configure Mocha to make it work with other bundlers. The Mocha pack, they mostly use the Mocha integration with Webpack, takes much time to upgrade to Webpack 5, and it still hasn't upgraded to Mocha 10 yet. Luckily, we now have Vite, which is a Vite-based unit testing tool, so it's faster by default, and the configurations of Vite is derived from the Vite configuration. So the users run all the code in a similar environment. And most importantly, it is well maintained by people who are familiar with Vite. So it's easier to upgrade to new Vite versions. And it is also part of the Vite ecosystem CI. So much for the ecosystem. Looking into the future of Vite-Vue integration, we still have many exciting new things planned. For example, it is a common source of bug that there may be more than one Vue copies in the same node modules. So we want to dedupe the Vue package by default and keep only one copy of it. We'd like to ship this feature after thorough testing. And here's another potential improvement, that though Vite encourages ES modules whenever possible, there may be some legacy packages that were shipped in the CommonJS format, and they might even require the CommonJS version of Vue. So we want to improve that kind of packages interoperability with newer packages. And we want to do something in Vue, in the Vue plugin to help improve the situation. Though Vite is already very fast, there is always room for improvement, and we won't stop looking for ways to speed up Vite even further. So that's it for my talk. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoy coding with Vue and Vite. Thanks.